Don't get me wrong, it's also beautiful, but man, it's just, I don't know what it is about all the end of the year movies for 2023, but all this is sad, man. And today we have All of Us Strangers. It says 2023 release. I think they started playing it this year, so like January for most of us, I guess. So thought I was done with the 2023 releases, but oh no. Anyway, you watch the trailer for All of Us Strangers and you pretty much have a gist of the vibe. It's going to be slow, sad, beautiful movie about human beings, and in this case, two gay men borderline trauma dumping on each other. I'm just like trying to give a very brief summary of the film. The past life of the one guy mainly, and his family, and his family dynamic. And you know, by the trailer you can put two and two together. They're gone and he's just kind of having these fantasies about what could have been. I'm getting ahead of myself. You watch the trailer, you know it's going to be a well-shot, sad movie. All of Us Strangers is directed by Andrew Hi? Is that how I said it? Unfamiliar with the director, but looking into it, he's done, most recently, 2017, Lean on Pete. Never heard of it, but good for him. One thing I did actually know a little bit about, a show that was canceled way before it ever should have been, but he did direct a couple episodes of the OA, which, if you haven't seen it, it's worth a shot on Netflix. You might have seen the marketing for this because we have two fine men leading the charge on this sob fest of a film. We have Andrew Scott, who is becoming more and more famous in the States, who I know he's been an actor for like quite a while now. For me, the first time that I remember him, like recognize seeing him anywhere and him popping up on my radar, was definitely Sherlock, back when he was Moriarty and came up in that was great, loved that. But I think more notably and more recently so, the priest from Fleabag, I think, is what he's most well known for in the US, arguably, I'd say. And then you have an actor who's like relatively new to the scene, Paul Mescal, I think it's Mezcal, like tequila, sure, but he's also our secondary protagonist, and I still need to watch this. I've been trying to get through all the A24 films, and I usually am caught up on them, but somehow I just missed After Sun. I think it was playing, I just missed seeing it, but he was in that, and people kept talking about him, saying he was really good, movie was good, he was good. But yeah, you have these two men, and the long and the short of it, what little you can glean from the trailer, and I'm not gonna like spoil anything, obviously, like you should go in as blind as possible, but we saw the trailer like probably 20 times before we saw the movie, just because we go see a lot of movies. Just two guys that happen to live in the same apartment complex, and they meet, and they hit it off, and they start seeing each other, and then our main character, Andrew Scott, while talking to this guy and kind of just like experiencing life and just living it, but he's clearly struggling with some stuff under the surface, and that struggle is because he goes back to like his childhood home. Parents are no longer with us, and so he goes back to his childhood home, and he imagines and basically literally has these like almost lucid dream sequences. He's just imagining, it's all in his mind, but he's seeing his parents as he remembered them from childhood, but he's talking to them in the context of, they're the same age, but I've grown up, so they're talking to me as if they're here and I'm my current me. So basically it's just kind of him having to go through these conversations that he wishes he could have and address things about his childhood that he wishes he could have, and like how it was when he was being raised, and now that he's gay, how they feel about that, and that whole deal. So there's a beautiful introduction at the start of the film, the night that we went to go see it, talking about how this movie's kind of just a big therapy session basically, and he's not too far off. Performances. Obviously, for one, Andrew Scott, you already knew. If you knew him, you know. But Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal, two absolute powerhouses of actors, as always, bringing forward the emotion and the heart and the vulnerability and the the trauma, it all comes through. And obviously representation, whether it's, you know, different races or different religions or ethnicities or sexual orientation. And in this case, it's a couple just very handsome gay boys. A couple of homosexuals, if you will. More gay movies, sure. Yeah, keep making them. They're great. Keep representing a demographic that I think is arguably underrepresented, and done so in a very respectful and emotional and mature way. It was great. I loved it. As I keep alluding to already, you will have yourself a nice cry. I didn't cry as much as I thought I would in the movie, but I definitely got emotional. There were definitely tears being shed. I mean, really, if you have daddy issues, mommy issues, or just trouble with like embracing who you are and yourself, and kind of just, it hits all of those notes. So there's a lot there to latch on to, all the human elements. There's a lot there to empathize or sympathize with, so you're probably going to have yourself a good cry if you're emotionally intelligent in that sense, or if you're willing to be vulnerable and kind of just, you know, connect to these characters in this film. It's cathartic. Movies like this, you know, frequently are. There's movies that I have in my library that I know are going to be a sad time, but we watch them anyway. And I really did like what this film does with the whole Andrew Scott's character exploring this basically hypothetical family dynamic, because his mother and father die when he's very young. So all the formative years, the growing up, you know, the teens, becoming an adult, and now as an adult, it's one thing not to be connected to your parents, but to have lost them entirely, and have them be absent, not of even of their choice, but just through happenstance. I mean, that's a lot to deal with. So you can tell that all these years later, he's still processing. He's never truly processed, and he's hanging on to them so much so that it's basically, they're living rent-free in his head. I liked the dynamic and the conversations and the writing whenever he does interact with these what-ifs of his parents, basically. And the cinematography is gorgeous. You can tell from the trailer, by the way. The trailer is done very well to entice you, show the actors the emotion, and like the plot and premise, obviously, but also the cinematography, the simple camera work, but the way that it's done with foreground and background and colors and fades in, fades out, and distortion and all this. The director and the cinematographer, you could tell they put some effort and had some fun, and really just kind of to be able to convey emotion and character and like mood and like tone, not only through your actual actors, but through your camera work and through the imagery you're able to create with your camera in these scenes. That goes a long way too. So I really admired it. It was great cinematography. The only complaint I had about the film, like I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it. The main thing I put down was that even in retrospect, the narrative decisions and direction of the story, I mean, I get the point of the story, and I like the concepts that are explored within. I like the gradual fleshing out of these characters and the dialogue and these emotional scenes, and of trying to process trauma, move on, acceptance, and then, you know, dealing with your parents and sexuality and what it's like growing up with or without parents, and just life in general. All these concepts are great, but I mean, the film goes, but I almost am hesitant to say that the film, I mean, does the film really go anywhere? I mean, it does. By the end of the film definitely went from A to B. There's an arc in the journey our main characters have, and I mean, it works. I just want to call it like a masterpiece or like a masterclass of narrative. It's just, I wasn't a particularly huge fan of the ending. I don't hate the ending or anything. It's just, I'm really at a loss for words here. I recognize the quality of the film, but I think that it lacked narrative direction and true purpose, I guess. Maybe it didn't need purpose. Perhaps it is just one of those like slice of life films that's dealing with people processing their trauma. But for me, on a personal level, I didn't absolutely adore it, and I would have liked to have seen more direction. I would have liked to have seen the film do a little bit more. But as it stands, All of Us Strangers is still a very, very good film. It's up there. It's one of the better films that I saw at the tail end of the one of the better films that I saw from last year. I would still give All of Us Strangers a rock solid 4 out of 5. It's up there. I just think there are some people that I'm sure will give it a 5 out of 5 and love and adore the film. I recognize all the great things that it did, but just more direction with narrative would have been nice. And for me personally, I wasn't like really enthralled by the journey. I didn't love it. If I want to watch some other beautiful bummers or some like sad but poignant films, there's a small list I would first give you before eventually getting to All of Us Strangers. But it's still an important movie. We need people to keep making movies like this, and these types of stories and these transformative pieces are still very important and very good. I just personally didn't love it, but still, solid 4 out of 5. Worth seeing in theaters. It's a good time. Worth just watching in general. I hope that was eloquent enough. I don't know, but thank you guys and gals so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode, whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers.